The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
I'm Frank. Welcome to Chicago Theater Review. Gail is our host, and we still have Tim from our last show, who's going to talk about what's coming up, and we have Al. But before we get to our special guests, let's talk about what's playing in Chicago. Next show I want to talk about, Theater in the Center, Little Shop of Horrors.
Fun. A little darker than normal, but they played it really well. They did a very slick production.
I mean, Little Shop can either be a dragged-out production, or they can really keep it lively, moving, and a lot of smaller theaters do it. But they did a great job at Theater in the Center. Tim, did you go down there ever?
Saw it already.
You saw it already?
Oh, yeah. I saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels last year. Saw Little Shop, and I'd seen it a bunch of times in New York. So the original, and I love this production, and it's fantastic. And the director Stacy's put all kinds of interesting, fun, new stuff in there. And it's a little dark, but my friend Rod Thomas is playing the dentist, and he's wickedly funny. But everybody's terrific. It's a wonderfully cast. Yeah.
And for anybody who thinks, by the way, that theater is far, it's probably about the same distance as going to Marriott.
Oh, it is.
So it's not far, so people should get out there.
Less people go to Indiana than leave Indiana, so
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to get to. In fact, from downtown, I would say it's probably 25 minutes. And there's plenty of nice little restaurants around there. You can buy your gas cheaper before you come back.
It's like a little road trip.
That's true.
Cigarettes are cheaper for those who smoke. I mean, it's
gas is cheaper.
everything's cheaper. It's a cost-saving thing, and going to the theater.
The tickets are cheaper. It's a bargain. It's a great. You get to see a Broadway show for that money. Come on, it's a great deal.
We do have a clip of the show, so let's play a fast clip of Little Shop of Horrors. Okay, so that's Little Shop of Horrors. That's playing at Theater in the Center in Munster. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a couple more clips because we want to get to both our guests because they have a lot to talk about. So the next show that I do want to talk about is Cirque Shanghai, which is playing till Labor Day. It's one of the few shows that people are going to be able to go to over the Labor Day weekend because
It's a fantastic. This is out of the 10 years. This is the best they've ever done. Went the other night to see it again, and took all my grandkids that were in from Connecticut and the other ones that were too young. They decided, okay, they got to see it. They were sitting there with eyes not blinking, mouths wide open, and it's the quietest that my grandkids have ever been for 65 minutes straight that I've ever seen.
Because, we're so used to Cirque du Soleil, and I have to admit, Cirque du Soleil is cutting out a lot of their acts, and they're doing more floor work, and instead of doing the high acrobats, this is 65 minutes, pure acrobats, and they brought in some beautiful stuff. Yeah. And just to give you an idea, we do have a clip of that. Let's go right to the clip of Cirque Shanghai. Okay, that's...
That was almost the whole show.
Yeah, it was 62 minutes. But after, if you go on Wednesday night or Saturday night, when you walk out, you got the fireworks at Navy Pier.
Yeah.
So it really makes it a special night.
Yeah, it's a great show, and they really packed it in this year. Now I want to talk about a show that we actually had on last month, and now we all got to see it, the Great American Trailer Park Musical.
Fun, fun, fun.
I know you all went to opening night.
No, I didn't go to opening night. I went a few days later because I had a conflict with another show, and it didn't make any difference. It was just a fun evening. It was, hokey, yeah. It was silly, yeah. The storyline silly, the trailer park whole idea of it, but it was just laugh and just laugh and stay laughing.
For a certain person out there who didn't really care for it, it's called the Great American Trailer Park Musical. It's not called Les Mis. It's not called Phantom of the Opera. It is what it is. It's the Great American Trailer Park Musical. It's just an hour and a half of fun, which we sometimes need, right?
It's pure trailer park trash. Everything you expect to happen in a trailer park happens in this.
It should.
This is John Glover's first major production that he's done, because he's always done community theater. He was big in Northwest Indiana. He helped open up Theater in the Center when it first opened up. So then he moved to Chicago, and now this is his first big production at the Wit. I loved it. I went just last Sunday. It was crowded. Every seat was taken.
It got a highly recommended by Hetty Weiss. And by the way, this is a new theater company called Cocandy Productions. This is their second show, so
I
watch
loved
for
it, so
them.
I highly recommend it. We do have a clip of the show, and actually what the clip is what they did on our show last month, so I broke it down to a 30 seconds, so let's play that clip.
This one could move to Metropolis easily.
Okay, so that is the Great American Trailer Park, the musical, and that's playing at the Wit Theater, and it's only playing for, I think, another week.
Next weekend is the last weekend,
Yeah,
so get
so-
out and see it if you can.
I would hope that they could extend it, or maybe the Metropolis people will run down and see it and say, hey, come on out to Arlington Heights.
You know what, I was surprised. Now I see why shows cost big money. This is not a major Broadway production. This is, storefront, this is the Wit Theater, and John still, I found that it cost $18,000, $19,000 to put on a show in Chicago, so it's expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
And, but the sets were beautiful. They were very realistic.
Well, they were part of the whole thing. The thing is that you have to set the mood, and that's what a set does. And they set the mood, they got the feeling. They even had, when you were sitting down before the show started, they had some cheese and crackers. You could have a little cheese spray on your crackers out in the lobby, and it was just fun.
Is this Chris Doyle and Debbie?
It's different. It's different. But it's comparable. It's comparable.
Yeah.
This is not as well polished as that, is it? They've been doing that for years. I think that as time goes on, they'll find little changes here and there.
Doyle and Debbie is one of the greatest things I've seen all year.
I loved it, yeah.
It's a great show. Now, we're done with all our clips, but I do want to talk about Second City. Have you been to Second City for the last two shows that they've done?
Yes.
So you saw We Are in the Room together,
Yeah.
and who do we think we are?
Yeah.
What'd you think of them?
Because I was doing Hairspray at the time that they opened, the first one opened, so I got to see them after. I didn't get to go to opening night. I loved them both. There's a lot of pressure on main stage because that was the 100th review, so there was
Right.
and they had a big cast changeover, but they did a terrific job. And then the ETC show is fantastic as well.
Do they
I think it's
have,
the first time to really
is that
great
whole
people.
thing script, or is it mostly improv? Is a lot of it?
There's improv in both shows, but it's a fairly well-structured improv. It's still a bit of a high wire act. It can tank, but that danger level makes it sort of interesting. But really, no, the rest of the show, the Second City philosophy is always give them a great show that's well tuned and polished, and then that nobody should have to pay for improvs. There are other theater companies in town where they're totally like Iowa is structured on pretty much everything we do is improv. You pay to see the improv process. Second City is you pay to see the show, then afterwards the improvs are free. It's a whole different school of thought, and they're both right. It works for both audiences.
Now, Al, you saw it, did you?
Of course.
Of course.
If they haven't, if they build it, I will be there. That's all you have to do. Actually, I didn't go to opening night, but I had a ball. I had a very good, I enjoy watching them work, and I know that there are parts of it that are scripted, and that's fine. Then they take what the audience gives to them. So if the audience is responding a certain way, they respond back. And that's the give and take of these improv actors, to be able to, on a turn of a dime, be able to kind of change their way so you don't lose the audience. Because that audience, depending on how many drinks they've had, and depending on what night of the week or what's going on in the world, it could be, they can turn on you. But they take all these little sections where they use the audience, and they get the audience involved, and a lot depends there if they pick the right kind of person. Because you can get somebody who's square as can be, and then you really got to work. Then you see them sweat, and then they're going, how am I going to get this to work? How am I going to get this to work?
If you had the choice, improv or script, which would you do?
Well, the beauty of Second City is you get to do both. You do an hour of scripted material that grew out of improvs, and then, once the show's over, you spend another like 45 minutes improvising. So I love them both. It's really hard to pick.
I would think improv would be the most difficult of anything to do, because you have to actually be quick, think quickly, and
Also, it depends. If you're a person who thinks quickly, that's fine. Then you can handle it, and it keeps you. I think it keeps you on your toes better, and it keeps you listening, where most actors don't tend to listen as much as they should. And somebody skips 4 pages of script and they're dead. When you're doing improv, because you rely on the other actors that you're working with, you have to pay attention. You have to listen to every word, because if you don't listen, you don't know where they're going.
Yeah, these people that jump off a cliff and do that paraglide, they have like a raccoon suit and they parasail, and you wonder, why would anybody do that? That's sort of the improv junkies, that they love that risk, they love that fear, they love to be the terror of going out in front of an audience with nothing except the other guy as a lifeline, and they really get off on that, It's a young man's game.
So now what we're going to do is we're done with all our clips, we're done with all our shows. For those that are in the second half or those in the suburbs, Gail's going to introduce, because you just met Tim, who's been on it, but I want Gail to introduce Tim and our special guest.
So there was this connection here, which was really strange. I was receiving press releases about a movie that's an independent film that is called Scrooge and Marley. And actually, Bruce Valanche, who I'm friends with, was in town filming this. And it turns out that Tim is also in this movie. And so we thank you so much. I know there was a little mix-up, and you came at the last minute, and I so appreciate it. And this is Tracy Bame. And Tracy, tell them what you do.
I was the executive producer with a man named David Strepik of Scrooge and Marley, which was shot in May in Chicago, and it'll be out this December.
And you also are the editor at the Windy City Times.
Right, I'm publisher, co-founder of Windy City Times, which is a weekly gay newspaper in Chicago.
So we have to talk a little bit about this movie. So what is the premise of this movie? And then Tim, we're going to talk about who Tim plays.
Well, we were so delighted to have Tim in this movie, and a tremendous crew of Chicago and Los Angeles actors. Many of the LA actors actually have connections to Chicago, even though they might live in LA now. So it's a really fantastic cast. It's basically a retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol through a gay lens. We see why Scrooge got to be where he was through the experiences of a gay man who was thrown out by his father in the 1970s, who lost a partner to AIDS in the 1980s, and became this money-grubbing businessman, just like in Charles Dickens' days. And we get to see him go through the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, and all of those things. It just happens to be that most of the characters in the film are gay. So it's really a classic telling of the tale. We do have Bruce Valanche, who brings camp and fun to it, and we do have lots of laughs, but it's very much a serious retelling of this classic.
And then you have the narrator, who is from Who's the Boss?
Judith Light.
We just announced this week, in fact, Thursday of this week in New York, she recorded the narration for Scrooge and Marley. So we were really excited. It just really happened over the last couple weeks. We didn't want to do the narration until the film was a finished cut, and it was. On Tuesday, we turned it into the post house, and on Thursday, she recorded the narration. So we're really, again, just so fantastic crew of actors that we have for this.
And when is the film going to be released?
It'll definitely be in Chicago in December. We're working with various venues in Chicago about where the actual premiere will be. It'll also be available on DVD in time for the holidays, too. We're going to parallel release it, mini theatrical. Now, we are obviously going to try for regular distribution, but because it's a holiday film and it won't be finished until the end of September, and because there's a really terrific score and all sorts of things, ghosts, special effects, we probably won't have a traditional distribution this year, just because most of those holiday films are already set. But we're going to try for it anyway. We've sent it out to a few places to look at the rough cut, and absolutely for sure people in Chicago will be able to, Chicago area will be able to see it in December.
And there is a website too.
Right, it's scroogeandmarleymovie.com.
We do have a clip, so let's play the clip of Scrooge and Marley, because you're really going to enjoy this.
'Twas the night before Christmas. The most magical night of the year. Humbug! This Christmas Eve, Ebenezer Scrooge, the man who hates the holidays, is getting the chance to begin again.
Before this night is done, you will be visited by 3 spirits.
Be gone. You have no power here.
That's what you think.
This holiday season, make the Yuletide gay with a new modern-day variation on the beloved Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol. Scrooge and Marley. Christmas 2012.
Now that's what I call getting into the Christmas spirit.
ScroogeandMarleyMovie.com.
Tim, you play
I play the ghost of Marley.
the
Yes.
Ghost of Marley.
Yeah.
That was you all in.
That was me, and with a lot of makeup on, a lot of decaying flesh.
You
And
know, at one time, about 20 years ago, Chicago was getting a lot of movies being made here, and then with the high prices, a lot of them moved out. So we must have made some great concessions, because a lot of theater, a lot of movies and TV shows are now coming back to Chicago. Did you insist on having it filmed here?
You know, I'm born and raised in Chicago, so, and all of my connections to friends and people who would donate food and donate locations is all in Chicago. So this is my second movie made here. The first one was Hannah Free with Sharon Glass, and I just love Chicago, and I want the people I know in the creative industry to get jobs here. So we had a crew that's from Chicago. Our post houses are in Chicago for sound and color. There's such a great talent pool here. I hate we keep losing them to New York and L.A.
Well, congratulations.
So, yeah, and a lot of, even, like I said, some of our L.A. actors, David Pevsner, Megan Cavanaugh, Rusty Schwimmer, Ronnie Kroll, they're all from Chicago. And they were able to come back,
And
stay
Bruce
with family.
has-
Obviously,
has
Bruce
Chicago
Valanche.
ties, yeah.
Bruce Valanche. So we, even in the casting of some of the people from out of town, we were very cognizant of Chicago. So, so I'm just committed to that. Our film is extremely low budget, 1 second of Batman, probably, cost as much as the movie. So, we did it by raising money through investors, through donations. We just finished our Indiegogo campaign this week. So we did it through just cobbling together a bunch of money from different places to make this movie happen.
Now, will this be playing at theaters that are independent type theaters, like the Century, or will it be playing at all main stage?
Right now, the theatrical distribution for independent movies is a total crapshoot. So we likely will just be in Chicago theatrically, and maybe 1 or 2 showings in LA, and then film festivals, and people that want to show it as a benefit, for example, we might allow it for that. But really, primarily, the life of this film, and most films, is DVD and streaming.
Right.
So that's why we're going to have a parallel distribution at the same time. 95% of the life of this movie is going to be in people's homes, not in theaters. So
And on demand.
On demand.
But it's a real labor of love, and everybody really kicked in. Nobody got rich making this thing. They wanted to make it, and everybody. We shot at Tracy's house. I mean, not only publisher, exec producer, her house. We shot great chunks of it there. It's really everybody pitched in on this.
It sounds great.
And Richard Knight.
Richard Knight, who was supposed to be.
Co-directed, and Ellen Stone King saw Ellen last night at Annoyance. Did wonderful work on the script, and it's just everybody's really helped out. It's great.
It's amazing. People don't realize the cost that goes into these productions, and having to come up with sets and locations and actors. And I remember you even did a thing on WGN during the writer's strike. Just the cost of why they were going on strike, we're talking pennies compared to what the big people are making on these shows.
The Megabucks Corporation, as opposed to doing a homegrown thing. And I love, the things that are done in Chicago.
Before we run out of time, we have to talk about what you're doing at Northlight Theater, because you're having a little reunion of sorts with your old buddies.
Yes, at Northlight, I'm going to be doing, probably November and December, going to be doing The Odd Couple, along with I'll be Felix. George Wendt is going to be playing Oscar. Two other guys are in the show, Bruce Jarko and Danny Breen. They were also in our cast at Second City in 1978. So it's a 34-year reunion for the 4 of us. We were the 4 guys in the cast, and Mark Rapey's in it also. B.J. Jones is going to direct, and we're going to have a wonderful time. And
this is the show. I think this might be the show to see this season.
It's the show you saw. That was the cast when the Orchard Man.
It was the show I brought to Northlight.
When you were what, 19?
When I was 19, and I think that this is the show
I think
this
you definitely
season.
have to wear your Orkin.
Well, before we finish up, I'm just going to ask him to do his little Orkin.
Because I know theater in the set. That's Northlight Theater in Skokie. It's a beautiful theater. I mean, Skokie really did a nice job, building that theater and stuff. And it's a great place, and they do some great work out of that theater company.
Yeah, and it's kitty corner from Old Orchard, so you can go to the Bagel, have a bowl of, matzo ball soup. They're coming over to.
So you have so much going on. So you have the movie's coming out in December, Scrooge and Marley. So watch for that. And then The Odd Couple with George Wendt, which I just think is going to be so much fun. Al, are you looking forward to that one?
I am.
I think everybody is. I think that
George was just in Edinburgh, Scotland, at the Edinburgh Festival, doing the musical version of Reanimator, which was written by Mark Nutter, and Stuart Gordon was producing. Stuart Gordon from Chicago, prior Chicago fame. So that's another whole nother Chicago
it's like 6
school
degrees of separation.
It is.
Isn't it? And we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of you on the stage and your writing. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but do you want to maybe do a quick Orkin Man?
You know what? Because we did it differently every night. I can't remember.
I don't know. You just had a hat on with a helmet with a light.
Sometimes it would be a turban with a light, and I would be and I was quite often, and it was an Indian, but an argument, and I was coming to get rid of the cockroaches, and but I remember that they're very smart, the cockroaches. They would stand on each other, everybody's shoulders, one by one, and they would get to stand up tall, and they ring your doorbell, and that's how they get in.
See?
I feel like I'm 19 again. Oh my God!
We've done improv on our show, and now
That was wonderful.
what-
They didn't hire me for Apu on The Simpsons.
So, what do you have working on coming up soon after this?
I'm actually working on a history of the gay press in America, the gay newspaper press in America. So it's called Gay Press, Gay Power. And I'm really excited. I'm just finishing that, so that's not as thrilling as a movie.
Because you wrote 3 books already. You
Right,
wrote one
and-
in the Gay Olympics in Chicago.
Right, and also on Chicago gay history called Out and Proud Chicago. Last year I did 2 biographies, one of Jim Flint and one of Chuck Renslow, 2 longtime pioneers in the gay community. So I'm kind of really on this kick of charting our history before our leaders and legacy, we lose more of them. I've covered so many funerals over my course in the gay community, and I feel like it's one of my jobs to make sure those voices aren't lost. And there's still a lot of people alive that need to be documented before we lose their voice. So that's my real kick.
And you should read her bio too. We read that because you have a nice bio.
Because you also have a website, and I know a lot of people make comments, but you come up with the latest of whatever hot in topics that week. You got something going, and
Facebook and Twitter. We can follow on. We've got a Scrooge and Marley Facebook page. We've got Windy City Times Facebook page, Night Spots. So anything and everything going on in the LGBT community in Chicago, we try to cover in some aspect.
So we want to thank you, and we want to thank you, Tim. Good
Thanks for having me on.
Good luck with the movie.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with the movie. Good luck with The Odd Couple, and I hope to see a lot more of you because it's just been not just sitting behind me at at Light Opera Works, but just it's been so much fun seeing you on the stage.
we've had this show for 5 years, and it's hard, and we're finally getting you out.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I've been wanting you on for a long time, and then
because the main purpose of this show has always been to give the small theaters a voice. And because Broadway in Chicago has their money, but the small theaters don't.
Or independent films, things that don't always.
So that was the whole goal of this. So I do want to thank you for coming onto our show.
My pleasure.
Be sure to check out the independent film and check out Tim, and thanks for the Orkin Man. It's a
Thanks for
throwback
coming on
for
at the
me.
last minute, because I know
Thank you so much.
this was...
We'll let you know when the movie comes out because some of those actors will be coming through town for the movie. Bruce Blanche.
I'll be at the premiere, and I'm sure I can get Al to come to the premiere. Al?
Of course.
Of course.
And go on our websites, chicagotheaterreview.com, aroundthetownchicago.com,
Around
Scrooge and Marley.
Around the town,
Around the
Chicago.
town.
That's
Scrooge and Marley movie.
and Tim.
And, Odd Couple in November, December. And thanks to Jackie Schwartz, Joyce Sloan, and happy birthday, Bernie Solins.
Jackie Schwartz.
Bernie's 90 on Monday.
Wow.
Very good. From Chicago Theater Review, I'm Frank and Gail, and we will see you at the theater.